Now, the president gave a speech this morning over at the Center for American Progress here in Washington, D.C., and I just have to say, in fact, Sam Sachs, who works over in the news, on the TV side over at RT, came over and said, "I think the president's been reading your book," because he was actually using some of our phrases. Of course, they're not unique to me. I mean, some of the phraseology in the book is when you're talking about economics. Pretty much all economists talk the same way. Like virtuous cycle, for example, the president used that phrase. Some of these things, but I want to just share a few clips from the president's speech with you today. And then I'll riff a little bit about them, and we'll go on to the next one. Here's these just kind of randomly selected. Here's one.
They may not follow the constant back and forth in Washington or all the policy details, but they experience in a very personal way the relentless, decades-long trend that I want to spend some time talking about today.
The they he's talking about is the middle class.
That is a dangerous and growing inequality and lack of upward mobility. And that is a dangerous and growing inequality and lack of upward mobility that has jeopardized middle-class America's basic bargain. That if you work hard, you have a chance to get ahead.
Our basic
I believe
bargain.
This is the defining challenge of our time. Making sure our economy works for every working American.
Now, basically, let me translate that from friendly President Obama into partisan talk show Thom Hartmann ease. Basically, what he said is 32 years of Reaganomics has gutted the American middle class. It's made the rich wildly richer. It's made working people wildly poorer, and the poor are even poorer than they were. And so inequality has expanded, and as inequality expands, society starts to fall apart. And this, he says, is the defining, I forget the word, battle, whatever the word was, of our time, the defining issue of our time. Now, if he says solving inequality is the defining issue of our time, what is it? Challenge, the defining challenge of our time, then what he is essentially saying, in my opinion, let me rephrase that. If I was to say fixing inequality is the defining challenge of our time, which, by the way, I will gladly say, then what I'm saying is it's time to roll back the Reagan tax cuts. Right? We did not have inequality like this when the top tax rate was 74% and corporations actually paid their fair share of taxes, paid a third of the national tax bill. Now corporations are paying about 10% of the national tax bill, and you got people like Mitt Romney running around where 6-8 years in a row he pays no taxes at all on an income that, $10, $20, $30 million a year. This is insane. I mean, it is time to roll back the Reagan tax cuts and go back to a top tax rate of 74%. When tax rates are above 50%, economies are stable and inequality diminishes. You should Robert Reich has a movie about this out called Inequality for All. I don't know if it's still playing in the theaters or not, but it's brilliant. And I'm not even sure that he ties that to tax rates. I think he does, but he points out that in 1929, when the top tax rate had been dropped in 1921 by Warren Harding had been dropped from 91% down to 25%. By 1929, inequality was just where it is right now. And what was the first thing FDR did? Not the first thing, but one of the first things FDR did, he rolled back the Harding tax cuts. Obama needs to roll back the Reagan tax cuts. And members of Congress, Democrats, need to be talking about this. They need to, Republicans, they'll stand up and say, we need a flat tax, we need zero taxes, we need no taxes, we need no corporate tax. They'll say the craziest things. Why won't Democrats, at the very least, say, let's just roll back the damn Reagan tax cuts? Let's go back to an economy that in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and the first half of the 80s was the strongest economy the world had ever seen, a middle class that was the largest middle class the world had ever seen. in large part because of our tax policy. And in large part because of our trade policy. I mean, my one disappointment with the president's speech is that he didn't talk about the relationship between exports and imports, the fact that we have a trade deficit. But that's, I'm willing to set aside my disagreements with him when I'm so blown away by my agreements with him. We have just 1 minute. Do you have another clip that's less than a minute? Sure. Here's a little more of President Obama.
It was Abraham Lincoln, a self-described poor man's son, who started a system of land-grant colleges all over this country so that any poor man's son could go learn something new.
Okay. Now, yesterday, remember, I was talking, it's like, people at the White House, thanks for listening to the program. I have been talking for, I don't know, just a few months, really. I mean, I always knew what a land-grant college was. I went to one briefly, but Michigan State University, but I never really understood the whole thing until I really started, writing The Crash of 2016 and dug into this thing that Abraham Lincoln created more than 50 of these colleges where he gave a large enough chunk of land to the college that they could work that land in a variety of different ways, whether it was timber deals or cattle or farming or whatever. They could work that land to make enough money so that the students could go to college for free. And here's the President of the United States referring to Abraham Lincoln's land-grant colleges.